Our gospel reading today is from Mark chapter 9, verses 2 through 9. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John and led them up a high mountain apart by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became dazzling white, such as no one on earth could bleach them. And there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He did not know what to say, for they were terrified. Then a cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud there came a voice, "This is my son, the beloved. Listen to him." Suddenly, when they looked around, they saw no one with them anymore, but only Jesus. As they were coming down the mountain, he ordered them to tell no one about what they had seen until after the Son of Man had risen from the dead. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
I can't show you what happened. James, John, and I aren't even really sure what we saw. It was wild. Maybe we were hallucinating, or maybe I was dreaming, and Jesus said not to tell anyone, but I had to tell you all. How could I not? You all are his disciples too. And you won't tell anyone, right? You might be thinking to yourselves that this is just Peter running his mouth again, or maybe that I'm just making it all up. But I promise, I'm not. And James and John can confirm it. I can't show you. But if you'll just listen and hear me out, maybe we can make sense of this whole thing together. James, John, and I went up that mountain with Jesus. And this wasn't some nice stroll up a hill. This was a hard hike. The mountain was so high, and the path was so rocky. We kept going up and up, higher and higher. Jesus seemed like he didn't really want to take a chance that anyone else would see us. So we continued to hike. It felt like we had been walking for hours. James, John, and I were all tired, and we wanted to take a brief rest. And we had no idea why we were even climbing up this mountain. And just as we were about to ask Jesus if we could take a break, he began to change. It was like he was someone completely different, but he was also the same. He began to shine so brightly, and his clothes became such a dazzling white that it hurt our eyes, and we could barely look at him. It was terrifying. Then, as if bright and dazzling Jesus wasn't enough, 2 men suddenly appeared. And you all are not going to believe this, but it was Moses and Elijah. The Moses who led the people out of Egypt, and the Elijah who entered heaven on a chariot of fire. They appeared, and they were just casually talking with Jesus. I didn't know what to say, but obviously I had to say something. How could I not? It's what I do. I'm the one who always says something. Jesus doesn't just start dazzling every day, and Moses and Elijah certainly don't show up and start talking to people. I had to say something, right? I just made a simple suggestion to Jesus. I said, Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. I mean, what else was I supposed to say? I was terrified out of my mind, and who wouldn't think that we should have stayed? Moses, Elijah, and Jesus were all there. Why would we have left? Then things got even stranger. A cloud completely enveloped us, and we couldn't see anything at all. I was reaching out, trying to find James or John, and I couldn't find them. And then we heard this voice, unlike any voice I've ever heard before. We couldn't see who said it, but the voice said, "This is my son, the beloved. Listen to him." The cloud vanished, and only Jesus was there. I have no idea where Moses and Elijah went. I have no idea where the voice went. But it was only Jesus left there with us. I wonder who the voice in the cloud was. I have an idea of who it might have been because it sounds like what we've heard about Jesus' baptism. It seems pretty outlandish, though. But how else would any of it have been possible? Do you think the voice we heard might have been God's? Surely we weren't just imagining it all. We really heard it. And if it was God, then that means our friend Jesus isn't messing around about all of this Son of God stuff. He really is. I'm not entirely sure what the listen to him charge was about, though. We already listened to Jesus, right? He says to go to this town, and we go. He says to go up that mountain, and we go. We've seen everything he's done, so why would this voice make the point to tell us to listen to him? Unless we've missed something. But we haven't, have we? We watched him heal all those people. We watched him cast out demons. We watched him walk on the water, and James, John, and I saw him raise that girl from the dead. What more is there? Sure, sometimes Jesus starts saying some things that are really out there. He's going to suffer, be rejected, killed, and then rise from the dead after 3 days. And we all know that. I've tried to talk to him about that. And I'm sure we also probably all remember how he responded. He called me Satan, which felt like an overreaction in my opinion, but I digress. Maybe we are missing something. Maybe just watching Jesus isn't enough. Have we been listening? Really listening? Do you remember when we returned from the country of the Gerasenes? We got out of the boat and the crowd surrounded Jesus. The synagogue leader, Jairus, approached Jesus to ask him to come and heal his daughter. We were walking and the crowds just completely encompassed us. And that woman, the unclean woman who bled for all those years, who really shouldn't have been in the crowd of people, that woman reached out and touched Jesus' clothes. And he somehow, in that big crowd, knew someone had touched his clothes. And when he asked who touched him, the woman came forward and revealed herself. I don't think I've actually thought about how Jesus interacted and spoke to the woman until now. He sat there and he listened to her whole story. He had all the patience in the world with her. And then when he did speak, he wasn't upset that someone who had been unclean and bleeding touched him. Instead, he told her that her faith made her well and to go in peace. I hadn't actually thought of what he said to her until now. He praised her faith. How could she have had any faith? She hadn't seen Jesus heal anyone or cast out demons. How could she have known that Jesus would heal her? I wonder if it's because she listened. She must have heard about Jesus from other people. She heard about him and believed that he wouldn't turn her away because she was unclean or because she was a woman. No other sensible person would have spoken to her the way Jesus did. I've never heard anyone speak to someone like that the way Jesus did. Jesus did the same thing when that leper came to him. Do you remember? The man with leprosy approached him and said, "If you choose, you can make me clean." And Jesus wasn't afraid of the man. He wasn't even the slightest bit wary of reaching out to touch him. And when he did, he said, "I do choose. Be made clean." The woman who bled and the leper shouldn't have been people he gave notice to, except maybe for him to say, "Don't touch me." But he spoke to them with all the kindness in the world. I don't know if I had really given that much thought to how he spoke to them until today. He didn't rebuke them at all. He spoke with a gentleness and a kindness that I haven't heard before. And I think The craziest thing to me is that the woman and the man expected nothing less. They had heard about Jesus, who he is, and what he is doing, and they believed. You know what I have heard? I've heard that the religious officials and the government aren't happy with the things Jesus is saying, the things he does, or the people he's spending time with. We've all heard Jesus say that he's going to suffer, that he will be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and that he'll be killed. It's probably because Jesus is dangerous. He's a threat to them, to their power and their position. I've also heard Jesus say that he will rise again after 3 days. I hope that's true. Jesus listens and talks to women, lepers, other unclean people, the demon-possessed folks, the foreigners, and the poor, and he never speaks to them with contempt or disgust. I can hear him now. I can hear the way he has cared for them and shown them love and acceptance. He prioritizes caring for the people our world tosses aside. He listens to the ones who don't have any power in our world. Jesus goes against everything we hear that we are supposed to do as good, upstanding citizens. I wonder if that was what Jesus was talking about a few days ago. Do you remember when he said, "If any want to be my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it. And those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it." And then he made the comment about those who are ashamed of him and his words. He was telling us something. And I think I missed it. I think I've been missing it. I don't know if I've been listening at all until now. I have to start listening to Jesus. I need to listen to the people he listens to. Otherwise, all I will hear are the powerful in our world telling me and convincing me that maybe their way is best. I won't listen to the women, the foreigners, the unclean, the children, the sick, or the poor. I won't see them. I too will just toss them aside. I will sacrifice loving my neighbor to maintain the status quo. I won't take up my cross. I won't know Jesus. I won't follow Jesus. I won't know the man everyone is talking about. This is my son, the beloved. Listen to him. Listen to him, the voice said. Listen to him. I've spent all this time telling you all what I have heard Jesus say. But I want to know, what have you heard?